Hello, everybody. This is Scott Smith. I am a minister in the Temple of Witchcraft tradition, a teacher, and the lead minister for the Aries Ministry. I am also a witch, Reiki practitioner, healing practitioner, and I work online and in person. Currently, a lot online as I am traveling back and forth between Los Angeles and Northern California to attend to health issues with someone very close to me and my family. I am still doing my practice. So Saturday service is a little bit late today, but I'd like to stick with my dedication because I am dedicated to my spiritual path, and life should not throw me off course from that for very long. So my message today is a couple of things, and the first one is about practice. And I'm going to sort of rewind my thoughts a little bit because this all went back to a post in which someone was talking about the nature of 101 books and how that's all there is, and they don't need that regurgitated information anymore. And I had a thought about that, which was most people take the 101 information and they read it as tactile, that it's what it does is evidenced in the first one or two tries, and they sort of handpick their way through it and do this and don't do that, and maybe don't follow the prescribed program that might be offered in a book. And I can think of several books off the top of my head, and I've been guilty of doing that very thing, thinking that I can just trust my intuition and pull the things I need out from a book that may be structured in such a way that it might invite me to do a chapter a month and such, and sort of go through that practice. There are a lot of books like this. There are books that are similar and different, and they offer different practices to us. And we tend to garbage bag 101 books at a certain point, and we say like, oh, those are like the basic practices, and I need real witchcraft, or I need something deeper. Something deeper is you. You're the one that goes deeper, and you can't get there without that 101 material. So when you henpeck your way through it and you just sort of pick it apart and toss aside what you don't like and keep what you will, you may get something. You may get something that's very personally validating for you. But you miss something if the author, whether they're coming from a tradition or not, is speaking to you about a method of things that's in there. There are layers to this. And speaking from experience as someone who has had a private witchcraft practice since 1986, I wouldn't call it a practice in 86 because I was just a kid, but a professional practice, a really dedicated practice since the late 90s. It's important that we don't disregard the 101 practices, because essentially, if they're good, they're fundamental. They build the ground level of everything else that you're going to experience. So if it's sound, right? Like if it's not just some sort of hodgepodge modern jambalaya, throw it all together and this and that sort of book that may not offer you something. I'm not saying it's not, I'm not here to like punch anybody, but I'm saying like if you looked at like one of the books from our tradition, like the Inner Temple of Witchcraft, or you looked at maybe the Druidry book by Christopher Hughes, or you looked at similar sort of material like this, there's a way through it, right? Which is do this, meditate on this thing, to keep a journal about these subjects, record your dream, whatever those sorts of things are. These are the parts that are inviting you to deepen the offering that's in the pages of the book. That's important. If you just go through the pages and you pull out a spell component, or you just pull out a practice and you disregard all these other things, this may work for you to cause an immediate effect of something, but you may be missing a whole track of things. That's the combination of all of the elements that are in this practice. Now, I bring this a lot to my students who are learning with me as a Temple of Witchcraft Mystery School teacher. our homework and sort of buddy system with our mentors is really designed to pace you through that material and remind you to go back to it, and remind you to go back to it, and remind you to go back to it, because there are things there. There are things there for you that you will get, that will unlock for you. Not necessarily what I want to unlock for you. That's not what I'm saying. It's not like there's like a checkbox of like, oh, they solved that thing, right? But you saw a thing, right? Or you had an experience that should lead you. A lot of those 101 books can be that if you take them with consideration and you hold them to your heart and you actually practice them. So, rather than buying 20, right? Like I've seen all the 101 books, right? Like, maybe buy one and maybe follow the instruction on that and dedicate yourself to that practice and see where it takes you. This is technology, right? Magic is the technology of those who were here before us, in my way of experiencing things. We're the inheritors of this magic, right? We're part of nature. We inherit this energy. We bring it in to ourselves and we go, what does it do? And then spirits of the land, of the sky, of the place, of the stones, of the rocks, this whole world is animated. They go, oh, hello. Or bug off, depending on where you're at, because they're not all there for you and they're not all friendly in our terms. It's not all here for us. It's not a world of big pie all for you, right? Or me or anybody. But we're noticed, right, when we do these practices. And as we deepen our practice, that is, we continue to practice these. We said, okay, I did the first 6 chapters of that book and I adopted these 6 practices, which I am doing weekly or with the moon, or this one I'm doing daily, to keep my energy balanced and keep my protection shields up, like that kind of thing, and or these prayers or all of those sorts of things. We have this sort of immediate result where we might feel an energy or a tingle to some degree, or we might have some kind of contact, if we're already versed in some sort of way, we're very open to it. And then we complete that. These aren't done. They're not done. In fact, if you continue to practice them, they deepen. Think of them like a wheel. And I often say this in the modern, neo-pagan, reconstructed Wheel of the Year, depending on where you look at it. We have it as a mystery tradition, the Temple of Witchcraft, that this is something that as you complete and return, you do this wheel and cycle over and over and over again, you sort of create those deer tracks, right? Those animal tracks through the spiritual paths of your lives. And these create a rhythm of energy there. And you don't know what that's going to look like. Just like the 101 material, you don't know what that rhythm is going to look like until you've been in it for a few years. In fact, I would say some of the things that I did from the 101 stuff didn't really materialize with a true depth of meaning for me until like the 3rd and 4th year, when I was actually needing to use them for other things in addition for just the practices that they were. Now, all of these years into it and comparing it and all of my experience, there's a wealth of spirit, of cohabitation with magic, the force and intelligence of magic and witchcraft and all the spirits that are involved in it that are there. What keeps that depth and what keeps me engaged is those daily practices, and I have daily practices, those basic practices. Are they prescribed? You must do the thing. I don't know. That's up to you. I believe very much that you follow the prescription and you measure it to your personal rhythm and you see what works for you. And I don't mean by your personal rhythm whether you feel like it or not. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean on understanding that when you do these things, there's a stretching and there's a fulfillment that happens in magic and in witchcraft. And you will know when you've been stretched and that it's full and that maybe you need to take a break from those sorts of things. And this is why instructions from those 101s may be good, or whoever your teacher is, but that you engage that level of things, because you may not always feel like it, but feelings are transient. They're water moving by, and they're carrying thoughts along with us, and they're here and then they're gone. They move up into our consciousness, they move down into the subliminal. They move back and forth around us, we experience them, we pocket them, we distance ourselves from them, we take them closer, all of these sorts of things, but they're liminal. They just flow back and forth and doing all these sorts of things. It's the energy of the practice that really starts to illuminate who you really are in the way that I do it. So the way that I teach witchcraft and magic. I'm not saying this is true for every practice, but in the way that I do it for magic, that it starts to illuminate a rhythm. It starts to illuminate a depth. It starts to bring on this kind of awareness of your luminous self. You know, like there is a glow inside you. There's a light, there's a fire, there's a flame, there's a witchcraft, there's a magic. What is that thing? There's an awareness. And you understand then that it's not about the conscious mind, which I'm not disregarding. This is that the ego is very important here to grow and experience the world through our senses, and life should be celebrated and the earth is awesome, and you know, we're doing a bang up job of it, but really it's through our bodies that we're having this experience. Ego is very important for me in witchcraft. It's not something that we disregard or put aside and try to rise above, right? We try to include, right? But it is that there is a deeper that's happening, that's beneath the identity that's happening, and that we need to tune into that, right? So we can go to these Wheel of the Year celebrations, you know, or these seasonal celebrations. We can go to teachers and we can engage all these practices, but it really is ultimately not surpassing the 101 information. It's have we dived into one of those books or one of those practices or one of those pieces to really peel back what it means 1, 2, and 3 years later, because you're not going to know until you're there, right? You'll know right off if you're doing something and it's, you know, hokey pokey, right? Like this doesn't work for you. Maybe it just doesn't work for you, you know, or maybe it's not a system that, you know, that works well. That's out there too. It's not like everything is perfect. No such thing as perfect anyways. But it should in effect yield a tangible result that is immediate. That is to say, I should say immediate result. And then later it will cause a deepening in you. Should. And I'm going to should. I don't like to should very much. So life, this is why we have a daily practice, is going to throw out these things. And if we're not engaging them daily, when the shitstorm happens, when the tower falls, when the horse breaks free from the chariot, whatever the thing is that's occurring happens, if you have a practice in the chaos of that moment, you still have a practice. You have something to lean on in yourself, right? Because your spirituality is the engagement with your inner world. So spirituality is not religious. Spirituality is not by my definition, but essentially it is the engagement of the inner world to the outer world and bringing out the contents of this inner world into our outer world. Because this secret self, right? This unseen being, right? This luminous us that cannot be perceived with eyes that see the color in this phone and this screen, but that is felt, that is emoted, that is even deeper than that is experienced in these currents of magic and things. This being, right? This being is engaged, right? And when we have these chaotic situations, transforming situations, these challenging situations in our lives, we don't have to, not that you shouldn't, you know, always run out to somewhere else or spill it out into the internet, or, you know, we go in, we touch, we connect to that practice, we connect to those spirits, we connect to whatever the thing is that the practice yields for us, that is the key to the door that causes us to remember, I am myself, I am here in my body, I am with, what are you with? Your heart, I feel, I think, this is, you know, that. So practice isn't just surpassing the 101s to get to the real witchcraft. Practice isn't just for when things are hard or just for when the moon is full or dark or whatever the thing is. It's a regular, it's an everyday, and you have to find what works for you. So that's, if you return to that 101 material and you're like, I've seen all the 101 material, I want real witchcraft. The real witchcraft is probably there in that 101 material. It just needs you to tease it out. And that means putting into play what's there so that you are teased out by that spirit of witchcraft, which is going to pull your threads, right? And teach you to pull threads, right? And through that, understand that these threads are connected to other beings, and that wherever we go, these beings can be different, and who they are, and what we're there for, and how to say hello. All of these things can come of a practice, so that when you're like me right now, having to travel back and forth hundreds of miles, for health things, you can find yourself in your body, in the present, in the moment, here for these things. It's still hard, right? It's still challenges, right? But there's circumstances for which you have power over, and that power is within you, and that power is through the connection of your spirits, and you can do something with that, even if it is just to cast a circle or hold a space and be present for what is, without the will, need, or desire to change it, because some things cannot be changed. Sometimes it's just about being the witch, the mystic, the magic user who is present and aware and allowing, right? Yeah. So I pulled the star a few times this last few months, and I pulled the tower. Now it all makes a lot of sense to me. What I wanted to say about the star was the second piece of information that I had this week. And then I'm going to pull a couple of cards. This is going to be a long one. The second piece about this is the star and the tower. And now, you don't know what the tower looks like until you know what the tower looks like. You can theoretically know what the tower looks like, and you can say, oh, this is a tower situation, but you won't know what it's like until you're standing in the rubble, right? Or you're standing outside looking at the rubble, because the tower is a tearing down of things, and it's not just a metaphor, right? Not just. It can be actual physical breakdowns of things and destruction of things and collapse of systems that support you and your life and your home and whatever it is that you're doing, the structures of you. But after the tower comes the star, and that star energy is also something that we don't know what it looks like. We ideally know hope and healing and all of those sorts of things that are the star, right? That this is the firmament, and there's a point of light there that's guiding us. It's the Pleiades, or it's your North Star, or whatever it is for you. But it is an energy which we cannot identify until we have really gone through that tower moment. When we understand that it is not necessarily what we think it is going to look like. My therapist said to me this last week, unbeknownst to her that I've been talking about these sorts of things, because she doesn't, that I'm aware of, because we're relatively new. She hasn't indicated that. I asked her, and she hasn't indicated that she's seeing me on social media. But maybe she has, so hello if you are here. But she said something that was very resonant with the star, which was to focus on those who are trying to assist you. And I was like, focus on the helpers, right? That Mr. Rogers sort of thing, which was really a thing for children to help them see who was helping. But I think we're all children, and that energy is present for us when we need it. And so it's to focus on the helpers, and to be, not only that, but to be open to the way that they want to help and to receive that help, to hear it, to accept it, to take it. There is a softening that is necessary after the tower falls to embrace the star, because it is the rigidity and the hardness that was part of the crumbling of what was breaking. And the softness of that energy of the star, the water bearer, which is an Aquarius sign, it's an air sign. These ideas are coming through as a current, right? As an energy. 1 foot in the land, 1 foot in the water, right? We're in liminal, we're in two worlds. We're neither here nor there. Well, I'm neither here nor there. I'm in Bakersfield, right? That is the softening of acceptance to receive the star's light. That is the second message. So the first part is lean in on your practice regularly, not just when you need it. And understand what a gift that is, because it gives you a point of clarity or light when things are chaotic. And the second one is to soften to receive the light of the star, to soften to receive. You know, it's not all on your shoulders. I've had to repeat that message to myself. I love my therapist for bringing that to the table. So that's been very helpful for me too. So that's the second message that I have as a roundup for things. And then the last is I really wanted to pull a couple of cards. And so I brought some cards with me today, and I brought the Alchemical Tarot, and I brought the Tarot of the Spirit. Tarot of the Spirit is the one that I learned a lot on. I think I'm going to do a tarot class just so people can really get into it like I like to teach it. So I'm pulling two cards here today. And the first card actually is from the Tarot of the Spirit. Tarot of the Spirit, and when I use this deck, is really, you know, what is the higher love message here? What is the guiding influence or the universal force that is at play that comes from that firmament and message of the star to say, yes, in the light, we accept these things, but what point do we need for guidance, right? What point do we need for guidance in the star? So that first card, you know, is important, because if we're talking about the star, we're talking about where we turn our internal gaze, right? Where are we in accord within ourselves with what the outcome that we desire is? Or where are we in accord with us? Where are we in harmony within ourselves, or where we are open to the best possible outcome, the most healing outcome, not necessarily like the most negative thought that we're having in our head, you know, like any of those sorts of things. So this energy is always very important. Yes, we need practical advice, but practical advice is only so good as you are orientated on your star, right? The star within you, the star above you, however you want to see it. I think it's both, and I think it's important to include both, because if it's only above you, you're not embracing the energy within you, and if you're only embracing the energy within you and you think it's all you, right, and there's no star above you that makes any sense, there's no anchoring to the heavens, there's no anchoring to the greater spirituality energy that's there. So what is this star energy for us today? We sort of ask into that energy, that what it is that we need to hear as a collective for those who are watching, right? You know, that's the key element here. So what is that? Oh, and there we go. And we have the One of Wind. What a great card. So this is One of Wind in the Tarot of the Spirit, and that would be the Ace of Swords. So this is a new breath. This is take a breath, right? This is bring in the fresh slate. Clear yourself out. Allow yourself to let everything go and let your mind be unfettered with everything. Wipe off the whiteboard, start a new page, put something positive on there that motivates you. Play your song. Aretha, You Better Think comes to mind for me right now. Like whatever it is, dance, cry, clear it out. Allow this energy to come through. That's the third message that we need here. What's a practical advice? What's that going to look like? I'm going to pull two cards from the Alchemical Tarot. These have more tangible pieces that we can look at that might be like man digging coins, you know, like that kind of thing that can give us some sort of pictographic reference of what we need. How can this play out for us? And I'm going to pull two cards, like a left and a right, and this is not a this or that. This, you might see this as maybe the Two of Swords, the consideration of those two things in the light of that fresh slate. What do we need to know in the light of that fresh slate? What two things can we hold to balance our situation? Or what two things can we put our hands on? You know, like just look at it as two things that can be helpful tools for you. So we're just going to open that up. We're going to pull from the top on that one. Oh, and two cards come out. All right. What do we have here? Oh, look at that. We have the Wheel of Fortune, right? That's a great card. The red dragon, the white dragon, right? So this has a little message there. And then we have the Ten of Vessels, right? That this is a culminating point, that this is a point of fulfillment, that there's something that's been cooked here. So these two cards can really say, especially with the Ten of Vessels. So I'm going to start there, the Ten of Cups, because Ten of Cups can be seen as like there's like a happiness here to this sort of thing. But I want to take away the happiness element for a second, not to be anything other than just take that out of the picture for a second to say, in regards to this picture, which is a very strong alchemy picture here, this is all the components have been put into this process. They have gone through this process. They are now no longer what they were before, and they are slowly being transformed into something else. And that transformation is here. So the liquid, right, this elixir, right, this self, this experience right now has already transformed. This is an indication of to recognize the emotional, to recognize the transformation and find your heart in it, to find your feeling in it, to maybe not focus on the past, right, and to focus on the future. Wheel of Fortune, right, this can be, we could say this could be like the Wheel of Life or Wheel of Karma or the Wheel of the Year, but it could also be an alchemical symbol in which we go through a process of transformation. And at a certain point in that transformation, you know, it goes fire, earth, water, air. It goes burn to ash, dissolve to receive the salt, and then, you know, the sort of like cook to boil to create this mist where we get this spiritual essence that drips out of it, right? That either is a functioning elixir of transformation that takes us into the center of the wheel, where the elements around us are no longer pushing and pulling and tugging us and doing all these sorts of things, and transforms us. You know, Phoenix rising from the fire. Kanik, thank you for that message as we talked on the phone in the car yesterday. Or we get lost in the process and we go back to the burn, to the salt, to the water, like we continue back around the wheel again. The Wheel of Fortune says, draw your circle in the sand, draw your circle now, recognize what has been catalyzed, what has transformed, what has become something new, right? This will help with that clean slate, right? So if I looked at this as practical advice, you know, I could say, let me turn my cards around here. I could say with those three cards, right? Fresh start, clean the books, clean the board, clean the slate. Transformation has happened. There's a newness here to you. Specifically, it might relate to events around you, but really to tap into that emotionally, right? So it's not just a mental process. And there's an opportunity to set things in motion in a new way. You can return the old route. Don't do that, right? Think about that for a second, right? Or we can transform and go another direction. And that would be the message there. Lean in on your practices. Recognize the helpers. Clean the slate. Think about what tomorrow looks like. There's a transformation that has already occurred. What is that? Lean in on that. Lean in on that magical, spiritual, mystical information, whatever that is for you, and write a new page. And that's the message of the week. We still have signups for the Path of the Moon and for the next Wheel of the Year celebration at the UU Church of the Verdugo Hills. The Path of the Moon is on notice. I haven't received any signups for that yet, and if I don't, we may bump that class because I don't know what medical appointments are going to look like right now. But I will be there for the Wheel of the Year celebration, as far as I know. And anybody who signed up, if there happens to be any problem, I'll email you right away. We do already have people on that list. So, yeah, this is Scott K. Smith. I do readings virtually and in person. I am a minister in a spiritual nonprofit organization that is the Temple of Witchcraft. This is my personal broadcast of messages called Saturday Services that I like to breathe into being every week. It is agreement between myself and my spirits and spirit itself to bring something to the world in a place where we're asked to engage, to say, stop here and stay with me for 30 minutes and listen to this. Root into this with me. Bring the sides together, be in our hearts together, breathe together, listen together. send me your questions. I'm here for them. You can find me at starandstonellc.com. I'm on Instagram. I'm on all the things. Blessed be, blessed be, blessed be, and thank you for listening.